How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to video 2 of the day. So today I want to look at this one over here by Oliver Drake. Now this one is a little weird, so I do want to go over it because it is talking about the whole, Xbox and Activision Blizzard layoffs, and people still are looking for that gotcha moment when it comes to, the whole merger situation. So, I want to go over this, but welcome to the video. I'm TheChaosLounge. Thank you for watching this video. Now we're going to get stuck in because there's quite a bit to discuss. I've made a previous video about this. Some of you agreed, some of you didn't agree. That's perfectly fine. Leave a comment in the description below. Sorry, not the description below, but the comment section below. And, if you actually have a point to make, I will go through and reply to it. I'm gonna especially be looking at this video to make sure that if there's any comments in there that, ain't, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, I don't care about those. You actually come back to me with a valid reason as to why you think I'm wrong, and let's have that discussion. But first of all, let's play the video.
I did not see anyone over the last 2.5 years proclaim that no one was going to lose their job when this merger happened. I didn't see anyone say that. Well, that's what happens when companies merge.
Flashback. Get where you're coming off with the layoff fear. We don't know what's going to happen when Activision Blizzard merges with Microsoft. There are fears about that. But I don't think 343 is suddenly going to pick up the torch and figure out what to do with World of Warcraft. It's been about a year since the Bethesda merger, and as far as I know, there have not been layoffs at Bethesda. So really, what are you doing here? This is just fear-mongering. There's no basis for it.
Two things that we have to note here that Oliver Darko clearly cannot comprehend with his small brain. Number one, they said, and Nick over here made a perfectly good point, and what Destin actually said was something completely different, right? He's trying to twist Destin's words. He said that 343 is not going to go to Blizzard and replace the team at Blizzard making World of Warcraft and start working on World of Warcraft. Now, to my knowledge, that has not happened, right? That has not happened, and it won't happen. The teams at Microsoft Game Studios are not going to go over to Activision Blizzard, that side of the fence, and start working on Diablo or Overwatch, right? It doesn't happen. Now, games that are in storage, like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Guitar Hero, and so forth, like Tony Hawk's, maybe a new one might come out rather than a remastered. Those games, sure, they're probably going to be offered to the Activision team first, but if there's no one there able to do it, it will be filtered out throughout the team. Again, that's not removing any developers, right? And what Destin said is correct. Now, here's some economics 101, because people don't understand how economics work. Now, ZeniMax is a lot smaller than Activision Blizzard. And Phil Spencer has already gone in and replaced roles. Matt Booty has replaced roles. So those people that were in ZeniMax have either gone down the pecking order or left. Hence, redundancies. So to say that there's been none at ZeniMax is disingenuous. There has been. It just hasn't been on the scale that's worth reporting. It's not newsworthy. But a company like Activision Blizzard is huge, right? So 1,900 is gonna, it's gonna turn some heads. It's a big number. Now, there's a problem here because this is a two-pronged thing, and I am gonna both, defend what's done, and I'm gonna call out what's done. So first of all, I'm gonna start with the defending side, right? Microsoft has its own PR department. It has its own finance department. It has its own, whatever department. All of these departments that are there, SEO, analytics, everything, Microsoft already has those. So any of those positions that are higher up, that are above the developers, that are above the project leads, but start going to the senior teams that are in charge of those big departments, like the finance, the PR, and whatnot, those teams were always going to get obliterated. There is no two ways about it, right? That was always going to happen. And if they could be integrated because they're a small company, like ZeniMax was, because ZeniMax isn't that big of a company, most of those will try to get integrated. Those that are willing to take a position down will stay. Those that aren't will leave on their own accord. But this is what, this is what he said over here. And then I said, overlapping roles would always be going. This is common sense. It's a merger, right? Exactly what Nick said. There is no difference between this. Mergers happen. When, our company was, bought out, when the one I worked for, they came in and told us, we're giving you 3 months to find a job. After 3 months, we cannot guarantee your job security because for the 3 months, we are going to assess how things work and then make cuts after 3 months. Job losses are always going to happen. It's a thing. Now, if you're turning around and saying, well, if Microsoft didn't buy Activision Blizzard, would that have been, would they have lost jobs? Would all of these people have lost jobs? Some of them would still have lost jobs, as we have seen already through reports from Activision Blizzard that, with this merger failing, maybe 300, 400, 500, 800 jobs were lost. But the point remains 1,900 probably wouldn't have been lost, right? So more jobs now have been lost because of this merger than they would have been. But job losses were inevitable anyway due to this turn in the financial situation. Secondly, his statement is correct. No one from Microsoft is going to step in and build WoW, Diablo, and Overwatch. So Destin here hasn't lied, right? No one is going to do that. I don't think anyone at Microsoft even knows how to run an MMO, let alone thing. Now, ZeniMax, maybe. They've got Elder Scrolls Online, but that is nowhere near on the scale of World of Warcraft or, say, Final Fantasy XIV. It just isn't. So they may have like some inkling and some idea. They are so heavily rooted in what they do with their lore that I just don't know if they actually have the capacity or the capability to actually handle something like WoW. On the other hand, show me a team in Microsoft that can actually do Diablo. I mean, maybe in Exile, maybe, but they are kind of a SRPG kind of people, strategy-based, not what Diablo's doing, but that's as close as it gets. Hey, Oreo. Sorry, my cat's here. Just wants to turn my power button off again while I'm recording. There you go. Yeah, just sit there for a while and I'll remove you after. Now I said, so what is your statement exactly making here? The overlapping finance, HR, PR jobs were lost and more in that region, right? Anything in that like level, like a top of the line, like Bobby Kotick, Lulu, all of those positions were replaced. I mean, I get the customer service one, and this is where I'm going to call them out now, right? Because that's what we do here at on an Xbox front. This is what we do as supporters of Xbox. We don't just sing the praises of what the company does. We call their shit out when they do it as well. The customer service one was a low blow. That sucked. That was a low blow. That should not have happened. Blizzard are known quite well. And when I was working in the industry, they were one of the ones that were cited as ones to live up to, right? Because my QA manager at the time actually worked in Blizzard for a while before going to Empire Interactive, right? And he was telling me about the, all the cool stuff that they did here at Blizzard Entertainment. Now, that one, there was no need to outsource that information. All that's done is made a service that was great basically now become a checklist for someone in, over at India or wherever it's going to be outsourced, and they're just going to read off a checklist. A prime example is when I was actually on stream the other day when I was talking to my chat, and I said I had a problem with my Google Pixel XL phone, the original XL. It was a hardware fault, right? And I actually looked online, and a lot of people were having this. It was a hardware issue where the port connector just stopped going in. And when I contacted Google, they asked me if I factory reset the phone to see if that would fix a hardware fault, because they have no clue what they're doing. That's the level of support now you're going to get from, Blizzard customer support. They're just going to. Whereas when it's more personal, when I did my customer service, the popular games, I had to sit down in my downtime and actually play and pay attention to the more difficult parts that people have and make sure I could do those sections. So when they called up struggling, I could provide them with support and help. Gameplay issues, technical issues, you name it. Now, I continued down here. But even the Odyssey one is a far stretch. That game's been in development for 6 years. The developers that were working on that project were supposed to be working on engine called Synapse, which is a mobile engine, which in itself has been causing enormous amounts of problems for Blizzard. But the developers decided that they wouldn't work on Synapse. They would continue to work on Unreal Engine, knowing that all that work that they're doing on Unreal Engine is going to go to waste. It's wasted effort. It's wasting the company's money. It's wasting their time and effort. And in the end, if they've worked on that for 2.5 months, that's 2.5 months down the drain where the project has not moved one iota because everything they've done on Unreal Engine is going to get thrown in the bin if you can't actually lift and shift, which from the sounds of it, you couldn't, right? So there was a lot of issues going there from a development standpoint. And the progress that they made in 6 years clearly wasn't enough. Jason Schreier, who I don't really like, but he even turned around and said that had they have thrown hundreds, with an S, hundreds, so we're talking 300-400 members of staff onto the project, it still wouldn't get the game out by 2026. So that would have been the game in development for 10 years. That's right. That's okay. So clearly, people said that they did not want another Redfall mistake. They said that Microsoft should step in and in that situation, cancel the project. That's what they did here. They did exactly what they should have done with Redfall. Now, people are saying, well, why did they let go of all the staff? We now know from Matt Booty that that was not the case. Matt Booty has taken a number of those people that were on that project and integrated them where they could into other teams and other projects that are unannounced yet, and, to provide them with a place to work. Now, if you bring in 200 people for the sole purpose of working on Project X, and then Project X disappears, those people that were brought in for the sole purpose of working on Project X, the fact that they managed to get, say, 20, 30 of those into other areas of the company is, a blessing in itself. They are instantly going to go as well. And for 6 years, they produced almost, based on what we've seen, not very much. There isn't even a trailer, a teaser, nothing for this thing. I don't even know if it's out of alpha. Now, I've seen other, Xbox influencers saying that this game was good, this game was great, with no basis whatsoever. I mean, it could have been the greatest game ever, right? But we'll never know. At the end of the day, people accused Microsoft of not acting and taking a hands-off approach with Redfall. So now they decided that they're not going to do that. So it's unfortunate that Odyssey has been cancelled and that those staff members, not all of them, but most of them, were let go. But that is unfortunately how the cookie crumbles when it comes to this sort of thing. Where I work right now, we had a big project come in. It was a £1 million project, and which is, a small change in the games industry, I know, but for the company that I was working for, it was great. So we hired a whole team, and they sat there twiddling their thumbs for 4 months, getting paid to browse YouTube, watch Netflix, and whatnot in the office because they had no work because the project just hadn't come in. You know what happened to that whole team? It got to a cut-off point and the company said, right, well, since that 1 million project isn't coming in, we need to let you go. That's the end of it. And all of that whole team got wiped out. We lost a contract with a big manufacturer that we was doing client work for. Guess what? That whole team, exodus, out, because there was nowhere else to put them. This is business. This is how it works. Unfortunately, a lot of you don't understand that in the world of business, there is only one primary thing, and that is to make money. That's it, right? That is it. That is the whole concept of being in business, is to make money. If you think for a second, Sony, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, even care an iota, you're in for a rude awakening. Now, do they do some, consumer pro stuff? Sure. But that's all in the, hopes that they look good. They need good PR. No one goes to a company that's got bad PR. Just look at Limited Run Games and how they were doing stuff. They've got a really bad reputation now, and people just avoid them like the plague. But the reality is, all of these companies are bad people. All they care about is the money in your pocket and how they can get it. If Game Pass wasn't a great service and it wasn't value for money, would you sign up to it? I don't think you would. Maybe some of you would that really, really love Microsoft, but the majority wouldn't, right? You're only there because it's a good deal. And that's it. So, my heart goes out to people at Odyssey, the team on Odyssey. But, to say that this is the situation. Who's to say that Odyssey wouldn't have been shut down anyway? But while the clear out was happening, it went as well. People said that, like I said, about Redfall, and now they're complaining about it. But, let's take one step further. Do you go back to Diablo 4's launch? And when Diablo 1, they released their Season 1, which almost crippled and murdered the game, right? We all remember that. Everyone was up in arms, not playing. What was the number one thing people wanted? The whole of the Diablo team to be fired on the spot, and so they can put someone else in charge, in place, and so they can actually, build the game based on their preferences. None of you actually gave a shit about those developers then. All you cared about was, I paid money for this game, I want it to be as good as I want it, and if the development team, and if the project managers, the account managers, the suits don't give a shit, take them out, bring in new blood. I don't care, I just want a good game. And so, coming back from that, now all of you are going to take a high ground and a high stage and then come at this? I'm sorry, but there's a bunch of hypocrisy going on here. Now we go back to the whole Sony situation where Insomniac, who has been carrying Sony for donkeys now, being the only consistent studio in there, and then they get hit by redundancies as well. The only studio that's pretty much been carrying you for the past few years. I mean, if you look at Naughty Dog, they've been doing remaster after remake after remaster after remake, minimal cost with high return, and the idiots are buying it. And the one game that was actually new, they decided to cancel. And you're comparing that with Odyssey? When the man turned around and said, Neil Druckmann, that this was the best Last of Us project I've ever worked on, the most fun Last of Us project I've ever worked on, and it gets cancelled, where on Odyssey, all you have is the people that were working on it saying it was fun. That's it. That's it. With nothing to show. And then, Oliver says, your claim that only redundancies got fired was already debunked by Shrine's reporting. Where have I said over here that only redundancies were fired? I mean, clearly this Oliver guy can't even read English, right? He can't even read English. I think I even replied to him. Clearly you didn't read what I wrote, so until you actually do, there is no point in this conversation. Read it and then reply. Not just the first line. Like, I feel like I clearly expressed myself here, but this whole situation with Microsoft and Activision stinks, right? I ain't happy 1,900 people lost their jobs. I do accept, however, that redundancies were going to happen, and that was going to be a large portion of the company, because with a company as big as Blizzard, King, and Activision, there's going to be a lot in that upper level of management. A lot. In fact, I would go as far as saying that over 1,000 people that were made redundant, this is based on my assumption, over 1,000 was top level finance, PR, HR, and whatnot. Now, the customer service one, that's bullshit. Now, the fact that they reduced they got rid of their physical department, I'm guessing that's going to be both on the Microsoft side, it's going to be on the Blizzard side, the Activision side. This all kind of groups in together. Microsoft has been pushing for an all-digital future for a long time. My guess here is that they decided to take that, just like the customer service team, and send it offshore. Again, I think that's rubbish. That's crap. And that shouldn't have happened. If they were going to reduce a team, fine. But there was no need to offshore it. But you know what? Unfortunately, it's cheaper to offshore. Do I like it? No. Is it happening where I work every day, as I see right now, where people lose their jobs and that work is going offshore? I don't even know if I'll be employed by Christmas this year because my job could be offshored, right? It's a thing that can happen. It's shit. We all agree. No one sits here on the Xbox, fanboy side or the fan side or, just the color green side and is saying that 1,900 people losing their jobs is something to celebrate. When all those people at Embracer, Riot, Unity, Sony lost their jobs, no one celebrated. They mocked Sony for it, but no one celebrated those jobs being lost. No one did what the Red Dragon did. No one did what this Oliver is doing, right? galvanizing and celebrating job losses. That fan base is goddamn sick. And that is how I'm going to end this video. That fan base is goddamn sick and needs medical help. Because no one should be galvanizing, celebrating, and trying to get a gotcha moment when people's livelihoods are online. We all condemned Bungie for laying off those people. We all condemned Sony for laying off the Naughty Dog people, the Insomniac people, and all of their studios, shutting down studios. We all condemned them. We laughed at Sony because of the state they're in. Sure, that's the company. But at no point did we go and mock the developers or the teams. We condemned all of that because that's the right thing to do. That's the human thing to do. That's the moral, ethical thing to do. This seems to be a trait that is completely missing from Ponies. And I really want to see how, I mean, we've already seen how, you know, King Thrash has twisted this as well. All those console war stuff that he's turning this into. I mean, he is part of the problem. It's not just a Red Dragon. But unlike the Red Dragon, who's gone way off the end, the King Thrash is just, you know, doing this for console warring means. Who does that? Who does that? All I've seen from the Xbox fans, the normal Xbox fans, not the pure toxic ones, normal Xbox fans, is telling people, go sort your house out before coming to us. Go demand better from Sony. Go demand better. Expect better. Require better. And that is what Xbox fans do. And they always do that. And that is why the Xbox community will always be number one. That's it, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Sorry for the long video, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.